Okay, so back again, the 5th of May, Thursday night session with our Traders Club members. Again, if you are watching this on YouTube, then you're watching this 1 week late. Check out the links below to jump onto the club platform where you can get this live. We have been sharing trade ideas, we've been sharing news analysis, news events, news setup with the FOMC as well, and just getting you prepared for your trades. So as usual, before we get started, any information shared in this video is not intended to be a trade recommendation. It is solely the opinion and views of myself. So please remember to do your own analysis prior to entering any trades. Right, so can I get a quick show in the chat? Do you want me to go through the FOMC analysis, or have you watched it in the currency call this morning already? Currency FOMC analysis, yes or no? Watched it. Okay, fantastic. So I won't have to go through that. Just looking straight away, this is what happened on a pound dollar at 7 p.m. The news came out, pound dollar shot down. Since the news release, it moved a good 150 pips on a candle close, a maximum of 165 pips towards the downside. A very big move on a pound dollar. So what happened here was that at 7 p.m., we saw the UK, the Bank of England, with their official bank rate being released, was 0.75, expected a 1%, a 25 basis point increase. And then it did come out at that 1%, 25 basis point increase. What's a bit interesting and a bit something to think about is that the bank rate votes was expected to be 801. So what it means by 801 is, you can see here, first number is how many members vote to increase rates. So 8 members, you're expecting 8 to increase rates, to vote to increase. And the last number is how many to vote to hold rates, 1 vote to hold rates. What actually happened was we had 900, so 9 voted to increase rates, none voted to reduce, and none voted to hold rates. So that's actually quite interesting that, for a very good voting number, we still saw the pound weaken quite significantly, 165 pips towards the downside. And also, if you went into the monetary policy summary, clicked on latest release, you'd get that, right? So the release here with the rates next due at this point. So this got released. We saw that not only did 9 members vote to increase rates, 6 voted to increase rates by 25 basis points, and 3 actually voted to increase rates by 50 basis points to try and move rates to 1.25%. So we actually came quite close to a 50 basis points increase, which would have been very hawkish for the pound, coming from the Bank of England for the pound, but yet we still saw the pound dollar drop very significantly. Okay, so it's quite, again, unexpected there. And then the other things to note here is that the UK GDP was estimated to have risen by 0.9% in 2022, stronger than expected in the Fed policy report, monetary policy report. So again, GDP stronger than expected in the previous report. Unemployment rate fell to 3.8% in the 3 months to Feb, likely to fall slightly further. So we're looking at better employment numbers again. So it's a continuing tightening in the labor markets and margin of excess demand at present. And then you can see that CPI inflation is expected to rise further over the remainder of the year. So it is currently at 7%. So the 12-month CPI is currently at 7%. And it is expected to rise further to just over 9% in second quarter, and averaging slightly over 10% in the fourth quarter of 2022. So we're looking at CPI possibly going from 7 right now to 10% by the end of the year. Again, if CPI or inflation data keeps rising to that 10% level, we're going to see the Bank of England take more action, do more, or adjust policies more to further try and tamp down the inflation number, to try and control it towards bring it back down again. And where is it? Further down. So the committee judged that some degree of further tightening in monetary policy may still be appropriate in coming months. So the Bank of England committee has indicated, has signaled possible further rate increases in the coming months. And look here, the committee will consider beginning the process of selling UK government bonds held in the asset purchase facility, right? So what they have been doing is they've been buying back bonds, they've been pumping money into the market. Right now, they haven't done it yet. They're still considering to begin the process of selling the bonds. So to actually bring money out to try and strengthen the pound, or try and reduce the supply of money in the markets, which could strengthen the pound and also bring down the inflation number by controlling it that way. So two ways they're looking to do it. One is to use bank rate as an active policy tool. And secondly is to try and begin the process of selling government bonds. So what, with that said, they are formulating the decision, they are formulating the way to do that. But the main thing is they'll provide an update in the August meeting, and they'll make a decision in subsequent meetings on whether to commence sales. So don't take it too quick yet. They haven't started selling bonds. They are just formulating the idea, considering it. They'll come up and tell us when they're going to do that further selling of bonds. So if you read just these points, okay, and what happens after that is the details. So these are the summary on top, and this is all the details. Don't go through that. I just went through the summary, right? So what you should gather here is that 6 to 3, 25 basis point and 50 basis point, very hawkish. Pound GDP number risen more than expected, very hawkish again. CPI inflation expected to rise further, but they're looking at further rate increases in the coming months, with also considering for beginning the process of selling government bonds. Everything sounds very hawkish. Everything sounds very hawkish, but what we are seeing is the pound dropped, right? The pound dropped from that point of 1.2547 all the way down to right now at 1.2394. And I was sharing with you in the club where I was looking at that level. We were first looking to see whether it was going to break upwards. I was expecting a rate increase to push the pound dollar towards the upside, break above that 1.2660 level, and then possibly go towards the 1.28. Didn't happen despite the hawkishness in the summaries and in their actions. We saw the pound dollar drop, right? This could be another effect of the buy the rumor, sell the fact, sell the news event. We saw the pound dollar drop. I was just sharing with you guys in the club where we were looking at 1.2487, similar to what happened here as a quick trade towards the downside, towards that 1.2425 level, right? So just before the call, we're talking about what trades I jumped into. When I was looking at this news, I wasn't looking at it on the H1 time frame. I was actually looking at it on the 1 minute time frame, right? So on the 1 minute time frame, just to highlight to you, oops, where is it? This was, hang on, can't see. This was where the news happened, right? At 7 p.m. GMT +8, the news happened. We saw the pound dollar shooting downwards. What I did first move, I'll actually move this to the side just so that we can see the candle. The first move, we saw it push up, right? It went from 1.2547 all the way to 1.2580, and then it came back down again. I saw that 1 minute candle close that way, a pin towards the downside. And if you zoomed out, over that consolidation, a pin towards the downside, I started thinking, despite it being a good news, despite it being quite hawkish, we are seeing the pound drop. I didn't get into this trade here. Let me just see where I got into. 1.2509. So I got into at 1.25, no, not that one. 1.2533. 1.2533 was about there. Okay, so what I did was, again, same thing, sell, 30 pip stop loss, 30 pip take profit. That's what I put as a standard with a news trading as well. So 1.2533 was about that point there, right? So I waited. What I did was I waited for this candle to close, and as it moved down, turned back up, I saw it pushing lower. I got into it at 1.2533, 30 pip stop loss there, and 30 pip take profit there, right? So very quickly, within the minute, got in, the next minute it went down, hit my take profit. I was actually tempted to drag it down, didn't have time to pull it lower, and then it hit my take profit. 30 pips done. The next move, so as I saw it drop, I was looking for it to break below this 1.2486 level, like I was sharing with you here. Oops. That point, that point there, 1.24, is because of this point here, right? So because of that, I waited. I waited for it to break past that point. Once it broke past that point, again, another sell at about that point. Okay. So I sold at 1.24. 0.24, okay, there. So I sold at that point there, right? So I saw it drop down. I thought it was going to bounce back up. It didn't bounce back up. As it went down, and you can see that it actually tried to go lower before it bounced back up again. Once the candle closed, I got into the trade. Again, 30 pip take profit, 30 pip stop loss. I wanted that stop loss just above that line, went down, hit my take profit at that point there. Yep. Okay, hit my take profit there, and then I'm saying, okay, I'm out. 2 trades very quickly right after the news. This is at almost 7:30. So what I did was, at that point, I said, okay, let's wait, because it's broken that low, right? Again, back to the 1 hour time frame. If I zoom out, you can see that because it's broken that low, I was wondering whether it would come towards this point and bounce, this 1.2428 level and bounce. So again, I waited, right? This news came down, I waited, I let it came down, it hit that level, and it started bouncing, and I thought, wait, if it's bouncing, could this be after the news? Everyone's read through the statement, read through the analysis, and then realized that it's actually a very good news for the pound dollar. Could we see that bounce back up from this point, similar to what happened on the 28th of April? But it bounced, it came back down, and as it broke again, this is again trend following towards the downside. So as it broke that level, I got into a trade again. And this time was a little bit more aggressive because I've already made my 60 pips there. So I was jumped into a sell straight away as it broke lower to that point. 30 pip stop loss again. 30 pip take profit, 30 pip stop loss here. And 30 pip take profit. It went, this was a bit harrowing there. It bounced around. And then after that, it hit my take profit. And by that time, it was coming up to this session where we had our club session. So 5 more minutes to a club session. I got out of a trade, didn't look to enter any more trades. So that was my 3 trades on the pound dollar towards the downside at this point right now with 90 pips secured already. At this point right now, I would be very careful on the pound dollar. Why I say that, don't look at it on a 1 minute time frame already just because it's after the news. It's almost 1.5 hours after the news. Look at it on the H1 time frame. And you can see that it's at that point, it's broken, it's gone past. I'm actually looking now whether the pound dollar is going to bounce back up to test this point, where it's bounced off from before on the 28th of April, right? So I'm looking to see whether it's going to come up, test before going back down. If it does go lower, the next support, and it's moving lower right now, next support is at 1.2294. Why 1.2294? If I zoomed out or went into the daily time frame, you can see that 1.2294 was where it came down, hit and bounced here in June 2020, 26th of June 2020, and a couple more times in April 2020 as well. So I'm looking for that, whether it's going to move down towards that point or whether it's going to bounce back up. So if you have missed this move, what to do now? I would say look at it maybe on H1 time frame or on the M15 time frame. So you can look at it on M15 time frame at this, and if it does close in 6 minutes, if it does close lower, you could be looking to sell down. It would be a little bit more risky at this point because it's already moved that much. I anticipate some level of a bounce. If it does close below 1.2382, again, this would be a 50 pip stop loss just to be above that level, or you can keep it at 30, and then you could have a 30 pip to 50 pip take profit level towards the downside, a 1:2, almost 1:2 risk reward ratio towards the downside. So that's moving now as we speak for the pound on an M15 time frame. Another 5 minutes for this candle to close. I would say be a little bit patient, wait for it to close before jumping in. As much as it's dropping right now, unless you're a little bit more skilled, then you could be looking at it in a 1 minute time frame to sell down further. But just bear in mind, 1.2294 is quite a strong support level. All right, so again, if you are jumping into a trade right now, do your own analysis, make sure you manage your stop loss, your lot size, and your take profit levels as well. So that's the pound dollar. 3 trades there, closed out, done. I might be looking at it after the session, so I'll give it 1 hour, let it move, and then look into what to do after that. So if you're looking at it on the H1 time frame, then it is tracking lower. Just check. It is tracking lower. I think that it should stay there or bounce a little bit before possibly moving lower again. So just be a little bit more patient at this point. So that was my pound dollar trade since 7 p.m. today. Another trade that I had been looking at was the Kiwi Dollar. So Kiwi Dollar. So my Kiwi Dollar trade, and as I was telling you guys on yesterday, I was looking for it to move up to test this 0.6540 level and looking for it to reject that level. It's done that. It's gone up, test, and it looks like it was rejecting. That was on the H4 time frame, so it looks very nice on the H4. I got into it today at, let me see, 6513. So that was a bit later today. 6513 was about that point there. Okay, I got into that point there. 30 pip stop loss again. And then 30 pip 30 pip stop loss there and 30 pip take profit there. It just closed out right before this call. All right, so right before this call, it closed out, and then it now looks like it's sitting across or bouncing back up a little bit. Why this level? If I put a line across at, if I put a line across at this point, you can see that the last time it came down here, it sat there, it moved up, it bounced off at this level in May, bounced off here as well. So right now it's come into that area. So I think that it's found a little bit of a support at 6475, now bouncing back up a little bit. What I'm looking for is whether it's going to bounce back up significantly or whether it's going to sit there, bounce back up, sit there a little bit before tracking back down again. Trade idea for Kiwi Dollar on the H1 time frame will be to look for the Kiwi Dollar to break below 6474, 6475 at this point. And then again, that would be that selling opportunity towards the downside. I would say be a little bit more conservative here below this point, right? So at about 6461, 6461, 0.6461, you would have a 30 pip, 30 is a bit too big, but yeah, 25 pip stop loss, and to the recent low of about 30 to 40 pips there, a 1:1.6 risk reward ratio towards the downside for the Kiwi Dollar on the H1 time frame. So just wait for it about half an hour. I don't think it will happen in this hour. I think maybe 1 hour after that. So at about the 10 o'clock candle, we might see this break towards the downside on the Kiwi Dollar to push lower. So that's the Kiwi Dollar. We looked at the pound dollar, we looked at the Kiwi Dollar. One other very interesting one that I was eyeing is the US yen. Okay, so US yen this morning we were talking about buying it up towards the upside. It's done that. This morning we were talking about an H4, it's done that. I was actually watching it, whether it was going to break above 130. This big move, at that same time when pound was dropping, the US yen was pushing up, and I was just thinking, if this hour were to close up above 1.3130, above that 130 level, could we see further upside in this fashion towards that 13045 or 13050 level? 40 pips towards the upside, 20 pips stop loss, 1:2 risk reward ratio towards the upside, but it didn't happen. It came very close to 130, didn't close above, and now it's retracing back down. So trade invalid, don't jump into that trade anymore. That's the US yen on the H1 time frame. I think that we're likely to see this bounce back down, possibly towards the 129.30 level. I think it's going to come back into this range. Why? Is because you can see that if it rejects, or once it breaks from this level, it'll come back down into this range. And since last night's FOMC is broken back down again. So 130 has become a very strong resistance level there. I think that given that it's rejected, look for further downside. Can you look to sell the US yen down? I would say that it might be a little bit too late, right? 30 minutes to the hour close. If you were to sell down at this point, stop loss would be about 30 pips. Take profit might be about 45. Still a positive risk reward ratio towards the downside, but I think that there are many other trade ideas to jump into rather than the US yen towards the downside. I would like to see it bounce back up, break above the 130 level to buy it up. With all that said, checking out the DXY, right? DXY, we were looking at it on the H4 today. I was saying that I was looking for it to test 102, about that 102 level before bouncing back up. It didn't do that. It had a small move down, but then it pushed up towards the 103, and now again back in that 103 at 103.30 zone. That same level that's been bouncing around since late April is doing that again right now. I think that we might see it retrace back down, same like what happened here before pushing back up again. So I'm looking at some short-term drop before pushing back up again. So just be a bit careful with the dollar index or with the US dollar. We are seeing, no, we had seen some strength in the dollar, but it looks like it's retracing a little bit now before possibly pushing back up later into the session. So with that, any questions at this point? Just to do a quick chat. Check the chat. Any questions? No questions. All right. Good stuff. Aussie dollar. So looking at the Aussie dollar on the H1, doing the same thing, a similar thing to the Kiwi. It's dropped. We've seen it drop. It broke above that 7160 with the US news. That was an analysis I did for you guys. It pushed up and now it's retracing back down. I'm looking for the Aussie dollar to come back down towards 7160. A super short-term trade you could be looking at. Maybe not now, but in our close, especially if you can go below this point as we're speaking. It's moving right now. Where is it? In this point here, if it can move down and be at about 7185, I would say on M15 time frame at 7185, you can look to sell down. Again, 30 pip stop loss. I wouldn't put it there. I would say 30 pip take profit level, a 1:1 risk reward ratio towards the downside, again for the Aussie dollar. You can see that despite the dollar index climbing, or now climbing back up again, we are seeing the Aussie dollar pushing lower. So I like this trade idea to sell it down below 0.7185, 30 pips towards the downside. With that, I think there's a lot of trades to be had today or this evening. So just be very careful with not jumping into all the trades, right? Just make sure that you are staggering your trades at the right point, choosing the right trades. The euro dollar on the M15, let's go MH1 first. Euro dollar on H1 is bouncing back up a little bit, but on the M15 time frame, you can see that it's trying to push lower. Don't do anything yet unless the euro dollar on the M15 or on the H1 can close below 1.0547, right? I would say that to be even safer, 1.0545 before looking to sell down, and it's moving towards the downside already. So this could be quite a quick trade, but you have to wait for it to break past that previous low point. Again, 30 pip or 40 pip stop take profits towards the 1.05 level. In this case, a very safe 30 pips would be good. Almost 1.3 or 1.4 risk reward ratio towards the downside. I would say just be a bit safer and look at 1.0541 or 1.0540 before looking to sell down. Let it close below this point before looking to sell down. Let's check back on the star for the night. Pound dollar still retracing, nothing yet at this point. Just be a bit careful there. That's on the H1 time frame. Let that candle close. Wait for it, or even on M15. It's not ready yet. So I would say look at this on H1 to be safer that way. Euro pound. So with that pound dollar dropping so significantly towards the downside, naturally it's pushed the euro pound up. It's pushed the euro pound up right now above that previous level we had at 8467, right now at 8529. The next resistance is at 8578. So what I would say is that it could, buying the euro pound up could be a good trade, but I think that it will be simpler to either look to sell the pound dollar down or to trade the euro dollar rather than trying to balance those two on the euro pound, because if you were to try and buy this towards the upside, your stop loss would be right in the middle of that area. Even if you had your level at 85, then buying it up, your stop loss would be at this point, 35 pips towards the upside, 40 pips towards that resistance. And you can see that the last time we got to that resistance, last time it failed to break towards that resistance, and back in December last year, before we saw it move towards that level. So just be very careful with the euro pound if you're trying to trade it further up. I think that many more trade ideas on other pairs rather than the euro pound at this point. Looking at the euro dollar again, you can see euro dollar now still on the H1 time frame, not ready to sell down, pushing back up a little bit. And because the euro dollar is pushing back up a little bit, the US yen is still tracking lower, being resisted by this 130 level. So looking at euro yen, we can see that, you know, it's tracking back down. I'll move this. We talked about this morning. So let me just move that. Okay, the euro yen is tracking back down towards the 136.99 level, right? Tracking back down towards that 136.99 level or 137 level. What I would say is look for it to break past that point, because that euro dollar is coming down, is dragging the euro yen down. The US yen is being resisted by 130 as a resistance level and turning back down again. What we could see here is euro yen pushing lower, especially if it can break below 1.37. So what I would say is a very short-term trade, H1 candle close, again below 1.37, stop loss 20 pips. Keep it very tight at this point because a lot of volatility here, and take profit about 29 or 30 pips, a 1:1.5 risk reward ratio towards the downside. I'm looking for that kind of quick trade, right? That kind of quick trade. That's not a quick trade, but that kind of quick trade towards the downside for the euro yen if it breaks below that 137 level. Okay, so quite a good trade there. And then pound yen breaking all the way down. So we talked about this morning, didn't push higher. Now that it's testing that 160 level, can we see it drop further? I would say be very careful if you're trying to sell the pound yen down, because you can see that 160, below 160, it can drop, but that happened in March before we saw it push quite significantly towards the upside. And again here towards the end of April, not a significant drop, right? We see it bounce around before dropping lower. So just be a bit careful. If this would be one of the trades that if you have nothing else to trade, then you look at this one. If you have nothing else to jump into it, then you look at this to sell down at about 106.45. This will be quite a big stop loss. So just manage your trade size there, 70 pips and 90 pips towards the downside. Essentially a 1:1 risk reward ratio towards the downside. I'm not super keen on this for the pound yen, right? So because it's a 1:1 and at that point, so actually it's less than that. It's about 60, 70 pips down. Yeah, so 1:1 towards the downside on the pound yen. Not the best trade. And given that it's just dropped and bounced that quickly, you might miss a take profit if you're not watching and then it'll bounce back up and straight away you're in the loss again. So I wouldn't be too keen on the pound yen at this point. If you're looking to sell the pound yen down, I would rather sell the pound dollar down instead. Right, so the pound dollar still tracking lower at this point now. In about just under 20 minutes for this candle to close towards the downside, then we could anticipate further move on the pound dollar lower towards that 122.9495 level. All right, with that, lucky last, US CAD. US CAD was brilliantly, as we were talking, as I was sharing with you guys on the platform, this was an FOMC news trade or news setup. I was looking for it to, this was the, no, this wasn't straight. This was the one I was saying that if it broke below this 1.28 level, a couple of sessions ago, we were talking about it breaking above 1.28, right? Yesterday, I was talking about it breaking back down from 1.28 towards the 1.2712 level. It did that, it did a repeat. It just broke down towards 1.2720 last night, broke lower all the way to this morning where it hit that 1.2721 level. Take profit, done. So this is a trade, a good trade we had for the FOMC news. At this point, I would say that it's right in the middle. Look for it to move back up towards the 1.28 level. Look for this move back up towards 1.28. Let it come back up towards 1.28 before deciding whether it's going to move back up or to hit and turn back down. So no trade on a US CAD at this point. Wait for it to move towards 1.28 to react, or if it continues dropping down towards 1.2712, then let it bounce from this point to try and trade it back up again. You can see that this is quite a strong support. Once it broke, it came straight back up, failed to break, failed to break. So it's either going to move up towards 1.28 or turn down, and can look to buy quite strongly at this support level. Right, so any questions again at this point? All right, no questions. Then the last one I'll look at before I jump back into my trades, into my own trading, is gold. Gold, the last time we spoke about this, I was looking to see that it would reject that 1900 level towards the downside. It hasn't. Now it looks like it's pushing back up again. So I think that we might see some upside on gold. Oh, gee, this morning we're just looking for it to turn down, pushing back up again. So I think that's invalid now. But I think that it's going to stay at this resistance level for a period of time. So don't rush into any trades on gold yet. Let it close above 1900 or close strongly above 1900 before looking at any further upside. That's it. Just a quick recap on dollar index, still pushing higher. Therefore, Aussie dollar is tracking lower. That's a trade we were looking at on the M15 time frame. So you could be looking that towards the downside. We're at 846 now, so it's almost, is the M15 candle closed towards the downside. So you can look at that, or you can wait for the H1 candle to close just to be a bit safer. The Kiwi dollar has tracked lower but hasn't broken that support yet, so wait for it. That's an H1 time frame kind of trade, so wait for that one. The euro dollar, I like it. I like how it looks. Give it another slightly less than 15 minutes. If it does close as a pin down from this 1.0545 level, we're going to see a good strong downside move. Pound dollar still sitting there, hasn't closed below our trigger level, so wait for that. Unfortunately, I don't think the US yen is above 130 is a valid idea at this point, so I'll scrap that on my watch list. Euro yen pushing lower, looking to close below 137, so we're looking at further downside. Give it time to close, give that trade time to close, or that candle time to close. Pound yen not ready, and lucky last, euro pound retracing back down from where we're looking at. All right, so just to end off now, a couple of trade ideas we shared, especially high on the list will be the Aussie, the Kiwi, and the Euro. And give you a bit of time, I think the Euro yen towards the downside as well. And naturally, as a scalping trade, the pound dollar towards the downside. With that said, any questions? If you are jumping into any trades tonight or through your trading session, put it into the club platform so that I can look through your trades as well, give you my 2 cents worth. It might help with your trades. So if that's it, trade well, trade safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for the CAD. Bye-bye now. Thanks. Bye.